when we were talking about Edith Scott, when we talked about her as being one of the first African-American students to be here in modern times. And I think I just barely made modern times. Because I graduated from Springfield High School in 1942. And I didn't even consider Antioch because in my mind, in the minds of my college and my friends, Antioch was a white college, and you didn't feel welcome, so you didn't even consider it. But that's not. I didn't come to talk about myself and my own experiences, and actually, I want to talk about Jim in a larger context, the context of faculty, and what we need to think about and do as we address the issue of faculty for the new Antioch. In order to, because I didn't want Athena to be holding one of those little yellow cards with her assistant over there. I wrote what I wanted to say about Jim because if I started talking, I would be here for a very long time. And my assignment was to talk about when and how Jim came to Antioch. He came to Antioch in 1971 as the extramural associate for the newly developed social work program. In the 60s and 70s, the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare was big time in the business of promoting mental health. And as a part of the mental health, they were thinking that they needed to promote the development of social work. At the time I was the director of the Antioch Program for Interracial Education, which, as you know, was our institutional effort to increase the diversity of the college. But as in that capacity, I also served as an informal consultant to students whose co-ops had been kind of in the social work field, and they wanted to learn more about social work. And as resident social workers, they came often to talk with me. So we submitted a proposal to HEW, and the proposal that we submitted was vintage Antioch, with a strong emphasis on experience joined with theory, based in community. The plan was that the extramural associate would specialize in the practice aspect of social work education. But in reality, that separation is illusory, and we were all doing the same thing. I don't want to spend the time talking about the social work program beyond the fact that, and an important fact, that it was generously funded. But I have to add that it was designed in a year-long seminar where the students participated in the development of the program. Jim, whose concentration was community organization and deliberately considered because his field was community organization, was the second person hired as extramural associate. After the first year, in recognition of his more complete role, he was appointed assistant professor of social welfare. In this capacity, he taught the social work practicums, community organization, and at his own initiative, the course on institutional racism, which he developed. I want to emphasize the role of Jim as teacher. His work with students in the community was a part of his teaching strategy. Promoting diversity and breaking barriers, basic to the criteria for the Walter Anderson Award, was always present in his teaching. Race class, and gender were basic. He taught students to ask questions, to research theories, to test those theories in practice, and always with a strong sense of social justice. Jim was granted tenure, but after 10 years had not been promoted to associate professor, which is the normal progression. By the time that promotion came, frustrated by the limitations of the academy and disheartened by the gap between our protestations and our behavior, he had already decided to leave. The rest is history. He went on to found the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond, and through a number of anti-racism workshops offered here, continued to contribute to Antioch's education and social justice. I am not the first person to make the observation that students learn most profoundly from who their teachers are, not from what they say. And they feel the impact of that relationship long after the subject matter has faded into the dim past. Jim was one of those teachers. He loved Antioch and he loved students. His deep commitment to participatory democracy, critical thinking, experiential education, and social justice left their mark on the institution, and I am sure on his work for the rest of his life. His selection as one of the first Walter Anderson Awards is a testament to the enduring nature of his impact. Now I want to retrace my steps a little bit in regard to our thinking and what we need to think about as we think about faculty. It was true in the case of both Bill and Jim, as you know. I've been here since 1964 in both capacities, and I have seen a faculty of color come and go. And there have been many reasons why they come and go. Oh, thank you. Good. I have 1 minute. But I think that I've already made the point with you. Jim and Bill both came in unconventional ways. Now, and I came in an unconventional way. I was never blessed by a search committee. I was initiated by J.D. Dawson and blessed later by Axel, but no search committee. Jim came because we had money, and we didn't have to compete for the resources of the college. What I want us to think about is how, when we talked a lot about the difficulties in recruiting faculty of color, and I think we need to think about how we do that and why we do it. And that our efforts to increase, it's going to be critical to have faculty of color here. We're going to do what we say we want to do. And I think we have to think bigger in all that we do in the new college, and thinking outside the box of what the traditional criteria for qualifications has been.
Before Professor James Dunn left us, he, to my amazement, put together a group of songs and worked with the studio here in town to produce a work called It's Time to Write Some New Songs. A few of the titles on this particular work are We're All Captives Until We're All Free, No Other Choice, The Ballad of Eddie Carthen, and When I'm Gone. On the cover of this work of song, Jim quotes Pete Seeger, where Pete says, "Songs are sneaky stings. They can slip across borders, proliferate in prisons, penetrate hard shells. I believe it's safe to say that the musical genius of Antioch Professor Walter Anderson allowed him to soften hardened positions and gain access to previously off-limits areas during a very early and challenging phase of race relations in our country. Jim was a very soft-spoken, yet very determined and resourceful person. He was an expert on institutional racism. In fact, it was during a class that I had with Jim called Racism and Discrimination that I learned about this more ingrained form of racism. I must tell you, though, that Jim's class was not an opportunity to vent at white people, but rather it was an informed attempt to bring about learning, understanding, and perhaps individual or collective action when it came to recognizing and working to undo this form of racism. As a student during Jim's time at Antioch, many of us got to know him as a relentless and dedicated community organizer and social activist. As the title of one of his songs go, "We're all captive till we're all free," Jim would often say, "An injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere." It seems he truly believed that as long as someone was deprived of their rights to be treated as a human being with dignity, that all of us should be worried that our freedom and sense of dignity could be threatened. This belief was very evident by his broad reach and tireless work to provide welcome assistance to others, such as Mayor Eddie Carkins of Chula, Mississippi, who was fighting for his freedom because he would not allow his actions as mayor to be dictated by the old power structure in Chula. Jim worked with Unita Blackwell, the mayor of Mayersville, Mississippi. Unita was the first black female mayor in Mississippi. Jim worked with Unita in trying to get basic running water, sewer, paved streets, and utilities for her 500 residents. Jim also was very much a social activist and was a partner and resource for Antioch students in putting on conferences and events. Jim used his contacts with civil rights pioneers to bring in Ann Brayton, James Bevel, Reverend Kirkpatrick, and Bob Zellner, to name a few, to a conference organized between Antioch and Earlham College called Students of the 60s Meet with Students of the 70s to discuss the 80s. I believe that this conference was motivated out of a concern about the coming Reagan era and its potential implication for hard-fought gains during the previous 2 decades. Jim helped organize a bus trip to the march on Greensboro, North Carolina to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the student lunch counter sit-in, giving many Antioch students and local community members their first participation in the national march. Time does not permit us to share numerous other ways that Jim worked with Antioch students, but I'm sure that you will hear a bit more from others about this tireless, compassionate, and resourceful soldier whose life's work was winning victories for humanity. Did we make it? Okay.